The smell of my wife's famous lasagna filled our dining room, but all I could taste was humiliation. Ethan Morrison sat across from me at our mahogany table. His designer polo shirt stretched tight across his gym-built chest, holding court like he owned the place. Maybe he did, considering how my wife Sarah hung on his every word. "You know what your problem is, Dave?" Ethan said, cutting into his second helping of lasagna with theatrical precision. "You're too comfortable. Sarah needs a man with ambition, with drive, someone who challenges her." Sarah giggled into her wine glass. Actually giggled, like we were back in high school and the quarterback had just made a joke about the chess club president. "Ethan," I said carefully, "maybe we could talk about something else." "See? That's exactly what I mean." Ethan leaned back in his chair, gesturing with his fork. "A real man doesn't back down from honest conversation. Sarah, tell him what you told me about wanting more excitement in your life." My wife's cheeks flushed pink. She glanced at me, then back at Ethan. "I never said—" "Come on, don't be shy. We're all friends here." Ethan's smile was predatory. "You said Dave plays it too safe, never takes risks, always asking permission instead of just taking what he wants." The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd been married to Sarah for 8 years, 8 years of building a life together, of supporting her through her master's degree, of working overtime to pay for this house, this table, this very lasagna she'd made with ingredients I'd bought. "That's not exactly what I meant," Sarah said weakly, but she didn't deny it. "Look, Dave, no offense, but you're not exactly what Sarah needs. She's vibrant, ambitious, successful. She needs someone who matches that energy, someone who can keep up with her." Ethan took a sip of the wine I'd opened for dinner. "Honestly, you're not man enough for her." The room went silent, except for the soft jazz playing from our sound system. I could hear Mrs. Patterson's dog barking next door. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. I waited for Sarah to shut him down, waited for her to defend me, to tell her best friend that he'd crossed a line, waited for the woman I'd married to act like my wife instead of his audience. She said nothing. She just stared at her plate, twirling pasta around her fork like this was normal dinner conversation. Something cold settled in my chest, a clarity I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. I set down my napkin and stood up slowly. "You're absolutely right," I said. Ethan blinked, clearly not expecting agreement. What? "You're right. I'm not man enough for a wife who enjoys watching her husband get disrespected in his own home." I walked to the kitchen counter where I'd left my briefcase. "I'm not man enough for a woman who discusses our private conversations with other men." "Dave, what are you doing?" Sarah's voice had a sharp edge now. I pulled out a manila folder I'd prepared weeks ago after the last time Ethan had humiliated me at our anniversary dinner. After Sarah had laughed when he suggested she deserved a real celebration with someone who knew how to treat her properly. "I'm agreeing with your best friend." I placed the folder in front of her. "Divorce papers, already filled out. I just need your signature." Sarah's face went white. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious. Ethan's right. You deserve someone who matches your energy, someone who thinks it's acceptable to disrespect their partner's spouse." I looked directly at Ethan, whose smug expression had evaporated. "Congratulations. She's all yours." "Dude, I was just joking around." "Were you joking when you told her I was boring in bed? Were you joking when you said she could do better? Were you joking when you suggested she deserved a real man who would take her to Paris instead of camping trips?" Ethan's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Sarah stared at me with wide eyes. "How did you know about your private conversations? Sarah, you put him on speakerphone in our bedroom while I was in the shower." I sat back down, perfectly calm. "Did you think I couldn't hear you laughing about how I asked if you wanted me to make coffee instead of just making it?" The silence stretched between us like a canyon. Sarah's hands trembled as she touched the folder. "This is insane. You're overreacting to some harmless comments between friends." "Harmless?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Sarah, your friend has spent 6 months systematically undermining our marriage, and you've helped him do it." "That's not true." "Really? Then why didn't you defend me, tonight or any other night?" I leaned forward. "Why didn't you tell him to stop when he said I wasn't good enough for you?" She had no answer. The woman I'd married, who used to curl up against me on Sunday mornings and tell me I was her favorite person in the world, couldn't find a single word to defend our relationship. "I need some air," Ethan mumbled, standing up so fast his chair scraped against the hardwood floor. "Don't leave on my account," I said pleasantly. "After all, this is what you wanted, isn't it? Sarah free to be with someone who appreciates her properly?" He practically ran for the door. Sarah and I sat in the wreckage of our dinner, the lasagna growing cold between us. She kept staring at the divorce papers like they might disappear if she looked hard enough. "I don't want a divorce," she finally whispered. "Then you should have acted like a wife instead of his cheering section." "Dave, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling." I stood up and began clearing the table. "Sarah, I've been asking you for months to set boundaries with Ethan. I've told you how his comments make me feel. I've begged you to defend our marriage. I stacked the plates with mechanical precision. You chose him over me every single time. I didn't choose anyone. He's just my friend. Friends don't tell married women their husbands aren't good enough for them. Friends don't encourage wives to be dissatisfied with their marriages. I carried the dishes to the kitchen. And wives don't let them? When I came back, Sarah was crying. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she used when she wanted something. "I love you," she said. "I know you do. But you love his attention more." The truth hung between us like a death sentence. Sarah wiped her eyes with her napkin, smearing her mascara. What if I cut contact with Ethan? What if I tell him he was wrong? It's too late for that. I sat down across from her one last time. "Sarah, the man you married would have fought for you, would have demanded respect for our relationship, would have chosen his wife over some arrogant friend who gets off on breaking up marriages. You are fighting for me, right now." I shook my head. "No, I'm fighting for my self-respect. There's a difference." She picked up the pen with shaking hands. "If I sign this, it's over, just like that? Just like that. And you won't change your mind? Won't give us another chance?" I thought about all the chances I'd already given, all the times I'd swallowed his insults and her indifference, all the nights I'd lain awake wondering when my wife had stopped seeing me as a man worth defending. "Sign the papers, Sarah." She did. 3 days later, I was packing my clothes when my phone started buzzing with texts from Sarah's friends. Apparently, word of our separation had spread through her social circle like wildfire, and everyone had opinions about my sudden decision to leave. The first text came from Lindsay, Sarah's college roommate. "Really, Dave? You're going to throw away 8 years over a stupid argument?" Then Maya, from Sarah's book club. "Sarah is devastated. How could you do this to her?" And finally, the one that made my jaw clench. "This is so typical of men. Can't handle a little honest feedback, so you run away. Pathetic." That gem came from Jessica, Sarah's coworker, who'd never liked me anyway. I was folding my last shirt when Sarah appeared in the bedroom doorway. She looked terrible. Red eyes, unwashed hair, wearing the same pajamas she'd had on yesterday. "Everyone thinks you're having a midlife crisis," she said. "Let me guess. You told them Ethan was just being honest and I couldn't handle it." She flinched. "I told them we had a fight about boundaries." "Whose boundaries?" "Yours. I said you felt disrespected." I stopped packing and looked at her. "Did you tell them why I felt disrespected?" Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "I told them Ethan sometimes says inappropriate things. Sometimes. Dave, please don't make me relive every conversation. I get it now, okay? I should have defended you more." "More?" I laughed bitterly. "Sarah, you never defended me. Not once. Not even a little bit." "That's not true. Name one time. One single time you told Ethan to back off or show respect for our marriage." She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched between us. "I thought you could handle it. I thought you were confident enough not to need me to fight your battles." "This wasn't about fighting my battles. This was about you choosing sides, and you chose his." My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Tom Bradley, my best friend since college. I answered it on speaker. "Dave, what the hell is going on? Sarah called Jennifer crying about how you've lost your mind." Jennifer was Tom's wife, part of the same social circle that had apparently decided I was the villain in this story. "I filed for divorce." "Over what?" Jennifer said something about Ethan Morrison being inappropriate, but come on, man. The guy's harmless. I felt that familiar cold anger settle in my chest. "Harmless? Look, I know he can be a bit much, but he's just one of those guys who talks big. Sarah loves you, Dave. Everyone knows that." "Tom, did you know he told her I wasn't man enough for her? That she deserved better?" "Well, I mean, he says stuff like that about everyone. It's just his personality." "Did you know Sarah agreed with him?" The line went quiet. She told him our private business, complained about our sex life, our finances, our relationship, and when he used that information to humiliate me in public, she laughed. "Dave, maybe you're being a little sensitive." I hung up. Sarah stared at me from the doorway. "Tom's been your friend for 15 years. Tom thinks Ethan's behavior is acceptable. That makes him part of the problem." You're going to lose all our friends over this. Our friends? Sarah, these people just spent 3 days calling me pathetic for refusing to tolerate disrespect in my own marriage. They're not my friends, they're your enablers. I zipped up my suitcase and headed for the door. Sarah followed me downstairs. Where are you going to go? I rented an apartment downtown. The papers will be filed Monday morning. Dave, wait. She grabbed my arm. What if I talk to everyone? What if I tell them the truth about what Ethan said? The truth? The truth is that you enjoyed his attention more than you valued my feelings. The truth is that you're only upset now because there are consequences. That's not fair. Fair? I set down my suitcase. Sarah, for 6 months, I watched my wife's best friend systematically tear apart my character while she nodded along. I begged you to stop it. I explained how it made me feel. I asked you to choose our marriage over his ego. I didn't know it was that serious. You didn't want to know, because knowing would have meant giving up the thrill of having 2 men compete for your attention. Her face went red. That's not what this was about. Wasn't it? Be honest, Sarah. Didn't you enjoy having Ethan tell you that you deserved better? Didn't you like the idea that you were settling for me? She couldn't meet my eyes. I thought so. I picked up my suitcase. I'll send movers for the rest of my stuff. Dave, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll cut contact with Ethan completely. You'll cut contact with him now that I'm leaving anyway. How generous. Don't be cruel. Cruel? I laughed. Sarah, you let another man humiliate me for months while you watched. You shared intimate details of our marriage with someone who used them as weapons against me. You chose his friendship over my dignity every single day. I opened the front door. If that's not cruel, I don't know what is. I walked out of the house we'd bought together, past the garden she'd planted, down the driveway where my car sat packed with the remains of my married life. Behind me, I could hear Sarah crying on the front porch. My phone buzzed with another text from Lindsay. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Sarah is the best thing that ever happened to you. I deleted the message without responding. If Sarah was the best thing that ever happened to me, why had I spent the last 6 months feeling like the worst thing that ever happened to her? 2 weeks into my new life as a divorced man, I was grocery shopping when I ran into the whole crew at once. Sarah, Ethan, Tom, Jennifer, Lindsay, and Maya were coming out of the Brass Lantern, our old hangout spot, laughing about something hilarious. The laughter died when they saw me. Dave? Jennifer said with fake brightness. How are you holding up? Fine, thanks. I kept walking toward my car, but Ethan stepped into my path. Hey man, I think we should talk. I don't think we should. Look, I know things got heated the other night, but I never meant for you to blow up your marriage over some friendly ribbing. I stopped walking. Friendly ribbing. Yeah, I was just busting your balls a little. Guys do that. The group had formed a circle around us now, like we were about to have a playground fight. Sarah stood behind Ethan, her arms crossed, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Ethan, you told my wife I wasn't man enough for her. You encouraged her to be dissatisfied with our marriage. You spent months undermining our relationship for your own entertainment. I kept my voice level, conversational. That's not friendly ribbing. That's predatory behavior. Predatory? Ethan laughed. Dude, you're being way too dramatic. I was trying to motivate you to step up your game. By telling my wife she deserved better. By pointing out that you could do better. Be more ambitious, more exciting, more like you. Ethan's chest puffed out a little. I'm just saying, Sarah's a catch. She deserves a man who appreciates what he has. And you think I didn't appreciate her? I think you took her for granted. I looked at Sarah. Is that what you think? She glanced between me and Ethan, clearly uncomfortable. I think you both need to calm down. Answer the question, Sarah. Do you think I took you for granted? Sometimes, she said quietly. Sometimes it felt like you were just going through the motions. The group was silent now, watching this play out like a soap opera. I could see phones being discreetly positioned to record whatever happened next. Going through the motions, I repeated, like when I worked overtime to pay for your master's degree. That's not what I meant. Like when I spent my vacation days helping you move your mother into assisted living. Dave? Like when I gave up my promotion in Chicago because you didn't want to leave your friends. Sarah's face was getting red. You're making me sound ungrateful. I'm making you sound honest for the first time in months. Tom stepped forward. Okay, that's enough. Dave, you're embarrassing yourself. I turned to face my former best friend. Am I? By pointing out that I spent 8 years putting my wife's needs first, only to have her complain to another man about how boring I was? You are boring, Jennifer said suddenly. Sarah's young and beautiful and successful. She shouldn't have to settle for someone who never wants to do anything but stay home and watch Netflix. The words hit me like a slap. This was Tom's wife, someone I'd considered a friend for over a decade. Settle for me, I said slowly. Is that how you all see it? That Sarah was settling? We see that you gave up trying, Maya chimed in. When's the last time you surprised her? When's the last time you planned something romantic or exciting? When's the last time you dressed up for her? Lindsay added. When's the last time you made her feel special? I looked around the circle of people I'd considered friends, people I'd invited to my home, people I'd celebrated holidays with. They were all nodding, all agreeing that I was the problem. So this is what you really think of me, I said. All of you. We think you're a good guy who stopped trying, Tom said, and instead of fixing the problem, you're running away. Fixing the problem, I repeated. The problem being that I'm not good enough for my own wife. The problem being that you're not the man you used to be, Ethan said. Sarah fell in love with someone ambitious and confident. Somewhere along the way, you became someone who asks permission to make coffee. The group laughed. Actually laughed. At my expense, just like at the dinner party. You want to know what happened to the man Sarah fell in love with? I asked quietly. They all leaned in, expecting some emotional confession. He died. He died the first time his wife's best friend disrespected him, and she didn't say a word. He died a little more each time she chose Ethan's opinion over his feelings. He died completely when he realized the people he thought were his friends saw him as a pathetic joke. The laughter stopped. Dave, Sarah said softly, that's not... It's exactly right. I looked at each of them in turn. You want to know why I stopped trying? Because every time I did try, Ethan had something better to offer. Every time I planned something, he'd suggest something more exciting. Every time I made an effort, you'd all find it lacking compared to what he would have done. That's not true, Tom said, but his voice lacked conviction. Really? Tom, remember my anniversary dinner for Sarah last year? The one I spent weeks planning? His face went pale. I could see he remembered. What happened at that dinner, Tom? He didn't answer. Ethan suggested Sarah deserved to go to Paris instead of some local tourist trap. And what did you all do? Silence. You agreed with him. All of you. You spent my anniversary dinner talking about how Ethan would have done it better. Sarah's eyes were filling with tears, but I wasn't done. You want to know why I stopped dressing up? Because every time I did, Ethan would show up looking like he stepped out of a magazine, and you'd all comment on how put together he always looked. You want to know why I stopped planning surprises? Because they were never good enough compared to what he suggested. We were just trying to help, Maya said weakly. You were just enjoying the show. You liked watching two men compete for Sarah's attention, and you liked having someone to look down on. I turned to Sarah. And you loved being the prize. You loved having your friends tell you that you were too good for your husband. You loved the drama and the attention and the feeling of being fought over. That's not true, she whispered. Then why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you defend me? Why didn't you tell your friends that you loved your husband and didn't appreciate them criticizing him? She had no answer. Because you agreed with them, I said. You thought you were settling for me too. The parking lot was completely silent except for the distant sound of traffic. Everyone was staring at the ground, at their phones, anywhere but at me. Well, congratulations, I said finally. You don't have to settle anymore. Sarah's free to find someone who meets your standards, and I'm free to find people who don't see basic respect as too much to ask for. I walked to my car and got in. Through the windshield, I could see them all standing there, looking shell-shocked. Sarah was crying openly now, and even Ethan looked uncomfortable. As I drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. These people had spent years making me feel like I wasn't enough, like I was lucky to be tolerated. Now I knew the truth. I wasn't the problem. I was just surrounded by people who enjoyed making me feel like one. My phone started buzzing with texts before I even got home. Apologies, explanations, demands that I come back and talk it out like adults. I deleted them all without reading past the first line. I was done talking. I was done explaining. I was done begging for basic human decency from people who had never intended to give it. A month later, I was settling into my new routine when I got a call from my lawyer, Patricia Wells. She was a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in divorce cases and had a reputation for being thorough. Dave, I need you to come in. There's something you should see. An hour later, I was sitting in her office looking at a stack of printed text messages and emails. How did you get these? I asked. Sarah's attorney submitted them as evidence that you abandoned the marriage without attempting reconciliation. They were supposed to prove that she tried to save the relationship while you refused to communicate. I scanned the messages. They were conversations between Sarah and Ethan, dating back almost a year. This one's from last March, Patricia said, pointing to a particular exchange. 3 months before Ethan started his public campaign to humiliate you. I read it with growing disbelief. Sarah: Dave's been working so much lately, I feel like we're just roommates. Ethan: You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who makes you a priority. Sarah: I know, but marriage isn't always exciting. Ethan: It should be. You're too young and beautiful to settle for boring. Sarah: Don't say things like that. Ethan: Why not? It's true. If you were with me, you'd never feel neglected. The messages continued for pages. Ethan slowly, methodically encouraging Sarah's dissatisfaction. Sarah initially resisting, then gradually opening up more and more about our private life. Look at this one from June, Patricia said. Sarah: Dave asked if I wanted him to make coffee this morning instead of just making it. Sometimes I feel like he's afraid of me. Ethan: He should be. You could have any man you want. He knows he's punching above his weight. Sarah: That's mean. Ethan: It's honest. You need a man who takes charge, who knows what he wants, not someone who asks permission to exist in his own house. Sarah: He's not that bad. Ethan: Isn't he? When's the last time he surprised you? When's the last time he made you feel desired instead of just comfortable? I felt sick reading it. This had been going on for months before I even knew there was a problem. It gets worse, Patricia said, flipping to another section. Look at this from August. Ethan: I'm going to start calling him out publicly. Maybe some embarrassment will motivate him to step up. Sarah: You can't do that. It would humiliate him. Ethan: Good. Maybe humiliation will wake him up. Unless you like being married to a man who's given up on life. Sarah: I don't want you to hurt his feelings. Ethan: His feelings? What about your feelings? What about what you deserve? Sarah: I don't know. Ethan: I know. You deserve a man who fights for you, who doesn't let other people disrespect you, who makes you feel like a woman instead of a roommate. Sarah: Stop. Ethan: I can't stop caring about you, Sarah. I can't stop wanting what's best for you. Sarah, this is wrong. Ethan: What's wrong is watching you waste your life with someone who doesn't appreciate what he has. The next message was from Sarah, sent 3 hours later. Maybe you're right. Jesus, I whispered. It goes on like this for months, Patricia said. Ethan systematically undermining your marriage while positioning himself as the alternative, and Sarah gradually agreeing with his assessment of you. I kept reading. Message after message of Ethan telling Sarah she deserved better, that I was holding her back, that she was too good for me, and Sarah slowly but surely agreeing with him. By September, the tone had completely changed. Sarah: Dave planned this whole camping trip for our anniversary. I don't even like camping. Ethan: Of course you don't. You're not a camping person. You're sophisticated, elegant. You deserve Paris, not some bug-infested wilderness. Sarah: I know, but he's trying. Ethan: Trying and succeeding are different things. I would take you to Paris in a heartbeat. Sarah: Don't. Ethan: Don't what? Don't care about you? Don't want to give you the life you deserve? Don't wish I could show you what it feels like to be with a real man? Sarah: Ethan. Ethan: I'm sorry. I know you're married, but watching him waste your potential kills me. Sarah: He's not that bad. Ethan: He's not good enough for you, and deep down, you know it. Sarah: Sometimes I think you're right. This is evidence of alienation of affection, Patricia said. Ethan deliberately interfered with your marriage. In some states, you could sue him for damages. I was still reading, horrified by what I was seeing. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved and supported and cherished, had been systematically turned against me by a man who wanted her for himself. Look at this one from October, Patricia pointed out, right after the anniversary dinner where Ethan publicly humiliated you for the first time. Ethan: I'm sorry if I embarrassed Dave tonight, but someone needed to say it. Sarah: You were pretty harsh? Ethan: Was I wrong, though? You deserve better than a camping trip for your anniversary. Sarah: No, you weren't wrong. Ethan: I hate seeing you settle for less than you deserve. Sarah: I'm not settling. Ethan: Aren't you? Be honest, Sarah. Are you happy? Sarah: I don't know anymore. Ethan: You should know. You should wake up every day feeling desired and appreciated and excited about your life. Do you feel that way with Dave? Sarah: Not lately. Ethan: Because he's stopped trying. He's gotten comfortable. He thinks he can coast on past effort while you slowly die of boredom. Sarah, that's harsh. Ethan, it's true, and you know it. The final exchange was from the day before the dinner party where everything fell apart. Ethan, I'm going to tell him tonight. I'm going to tell Dave he's not man enough for you. Sarah, you can't do that. Ethan, why not? It's true. Sarah, because it would destroy him. Ethan, good. Maybe destruction is what he needs to become the man you fell in love with. Sarah, and if it doesn't work? Ethan, then you'll finally see what everyone else already knows, that you're too good for him. Sarah, I can't ask you not to say it. Ethan, because you want me to say it. Sarah, maybe I do. I set down the papers and stared at Patricia. She wanted this to happen. It appears so. She may not have consciously planned for your marriage to end, but she certainly enabled Ethan's behavior because part of her wanted to hear what he was saying. All those months I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was being too sensitive, too jealous, too insecure. You were being manipulated. Both of you were. But Sarah was a willing participant. I thought about all the times I'd apologized to Sarah for being upset about Ethan's comments. All the times I'd wondered if I was overreacting. All the times I'd felt like there was something wrong with me for not being able to handle friendly ribbing. There's more, Patricia said. After you left, the messages between Sarah and Ethan continued. She handed me another stack of papers. These were from after our separation. Sarah, I can't believe he actually left. Ethan, I can. He's weak. When faced with competition, he ran away instead of fighting for you. Sarah, maybe I should have defended him more. Ethan, you can't defend the indefensible. He wasn't good enough for you, Sarah. Everyone could see it. Sarah, our friends think he's having a breakdown. Ethan, our friends know the truth, that you were carrying that marriage and he was dead weight. Sarah, I miss him sometimes. Ethan, you miss the security. You don't miss him? How could you miss someone who never made you feel alive? Sarah, he wasn't that bad. Ethan, he was worse than bad. He was nothing. He was a placeholder until the right man came along. Sarah, are you the right man? Ethan, I'm everything he wasn't. Strong, confident, successful. I would worship you the way you deserve to be worshipped. Sarah, I'm not ready for anything yet. Ethan, I'll wait. I've waited this long. I left Patricia's office with a thick envelope pressed against my chest like body armor. The late afternoon sun felt harsher than usual, bleaching the sidewalks and turning every passing car into a glare. I barely noticed. My mind was already 3 moves ahead. First stop, a print shop 2 towns over, one I'd never used before, where no one knew my name. I handed the USB drive to the kid behind the counter and ordered 500 high-quality color copies of the most damning exchanges. Sarah laughing about how easy it was to convince me I was paranoid. Ethan bragging about the thrill of stealing another man's wife. The 2 of them mocking my texts, begging for answers. Every page crisp, every screenshot dated, every word preserved exactly as written. While the machines hummed, I sat in my car and made a list. 1, Sarah's parents. 2, Ethan's wife, Claire, who still believed his work trips. 3, our mutual friends, the ones who'd slowly pulled away after Sarah's whispered campaign that I was controlling and unstable. 4, Sarah's boss in HR department. The affair violated company policy. 5, Ethan's firm, same reason. 6, the neighborhood Facebook group where Sarah played the perfect wife 7. Anonymous packets to both their families. I wasn't going to blast it online. Not yet. That would be too easy, too impersonal. I wanted them to open envelopes in their own kitchens, to feel the paper in their hands, to read their own words while standing in the lives they'd worked so hard to protect. The next morning, I started mailing. Plain manila envelopes, no return address, typed labels, each packet tailored. Sarah's parents received the messages where she called them old-fashioned for worrying about her marriage vows. Claire got the ones where Ethan promised to leave her once the timing was right. Friends got the group chat where Sarah and Ethan ridiculed my pain in real time. I timed it perfectly. By Friday, the fallout began. Sarah's mother called me first, voice trembling with disbelief and fury. David, is this real? I let her talk, let her cry, let her apologize for believing Sarah's stories. She promised to confront her daughter that night. Claire showed up at Ethan's office with her packet and a lawyer. Word spread fast. By evening, Ethan was on administrative leave pending investigation. Our old friend group chat, once silent toward me, exploded with messages of shock, then support. People I hadn't spoken to in months texted apologies, invitations to drinks, offers to help me move whatever I needed out of the house. Saturday morning, Sarah appeared on my doorstep. Hair unwashed, eyes swollen, wearing yesterday's clothes. The poised, untouchable woman who'd gaslighted me for months was gone. In her place stood someone unraveling. "How could you?" she whispered. "How could I what? Tell the truth?" I kept my voice calm. "You spent 8 months making sure everyone thought I was the problem. I just corrected the record. You humiliated me. My parents won't speak to me. My boss put me on unpaid leave. People at the grocery store stare." I felt that cold thing in my chest again. Solid, immovable. "You humiliated yourself, Sarah. Every time you lied to my face. Every time you let Ethan into our bed while I was out of town. Every time you laughed about my pain with him. I just made sure the audience matched the performance." She tried tears next. "We can fix this. I'll end it with Ethan. I'll go to therapy. No." The word came out flat, final. "You don't get to decide when the consequences stop. You decided that when you chose to destroy me instead of just leaving." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Please, Dave. I'm scared." For a second, I saw the woman I'd married. The one who used to dance in the kitchen while making pancakes, who cried at shelter dog commercials, who promised forever. Then I saw the rest. The calculated cruelty, the joy she took in watching me doubt my own sanity. "You should be scared," I said quietly, "because now you're living in the same world I lived in for 8 months, one where everyone knows exactly what you're capable of." I closed the door. Sunday brought Ethan, pale, disheveled, reeking of last night's whiskey. He tried intimidation first. "You think this makes you the good guy? Spreading private messages like some bitter loser?" "Private?" I laughed. "You mean the ones where you bragged about breaking up a marriage? Those private messages?" He switched tactics. "Look, man, I'm sorry. It just happened. Let's call a truce. I'll stay away from Sarah. We'll keep this quiet." "Too late. Claire already filed. Your firm's ethics board has the packet. Half the partners played golf with me last month. They're not exactly Team Ethan right now." His bravado cracked. "You're ruining lives over this." "No," I said. "You two did that? I'm just turning on the lights so everyone can see the mess." He left muttering threats he didn't have the power to keep. By the end of the week, Sarah had moved in with her sister, her parents still refusing to take her in. Ethan's house went on the market. Claire got the kids and the dog. Both lost jobs, friends, standing. The life they'd planned to build on my ruins collapsed before they could even move in together. People kept asking if I felt vindicated. I didn't. I felt quiet. The rage had burned off, leaving something cleaner behind. Not joy, nothing as simple as that, but a kind of equilibrium. They'd taken my trust, my home, my belief in the goodness of people I loved. I'd taken their carefully curated images, their social capital, their ability to look their families in the eye. Fair trade? Maybe not, but close enough. I filed for divorce the following Monday. No contest, no reconciliation, no alimony debates. Sarah signed everything without a fight. She just wanted it over. On the day the decree became final, I stood in our empty house, my house now, and opened every window. Let the late spring air chase out 8 years of ghosts. I kept only what mattered: my books, my tools, a few photos from before everything went wrong. The rest went to charity or the curb. That night, I sat on the back patio with a beer and watched the sun set over the yard we'd once planned to fence for kids who would never exist. I didn't smile, but I didn't cry either. For the first time in almost a year, I simply breathed. The game was over. I'd played my final move, and I'd never have to play it again. I spent a week planning my response, not out of anger, but out of a cold, calculated desire for justice. Sarah and Ethan had systematically destroyed my marriage and my reputation. Our mutual friends had participated by taking their side without knowing the facts. Now it was time for everyone to see the truth. I started with a simple Facebook post, shared to all the mutual friends who had condemned me for abandoning my marriage. I've been accused of giving up on my marriage without trying to work things out. I've been called pathetic, cruel, and emotionally unstable for refusing to tolerate disrespect. Since so many people have opinions about my character based on incomplete information, I thought you should see the complete picture. Then I posted screenshots. Not all of them. I wasn't trying to be vindictive. Just enough to show the pattern. Ethan systematically undermining my marriage, Sarah gradually agreeing with his assessment, the two of them planning to humiliate me at the dinner party. I made sure to include the message where Ethan said he was going to call me out publicly, and Sarah's response, "Maybe I do want you to say it." The response was immediate and explosive. Within an hour, I had dozens of comments and private messages. Tom was the first to call. "Dave, what the hell are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth," something I should have done months ago. You can't just post private conversations online. That's a violation of privacy. Is it? Because when Sarah's attorney submitted these as evidence in our divorce proceedings, they became part of the public record. I'm just making sure everyone has access to the same information they used to judge my character. This is going to destroy Sarah. Sarah destroyed herself. I'm just making sure everyone knows how. And Ethan? Ethan's a predator who spent a year systematically destroying a marriage so he could steal another man's wife. He deserves whatever consequences come from that. Tom was quiet for a long moment. Jesus, Dave, I had no idea. None of you had any idea, but that didn't stop you from deciding I was the problem. We were wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Your apology doesn't give me back the 8 months I spent thinking I was losing my mind. It doesn't give me back the marriage that might have been saved if someone had bothered to ask for my side of the story. What can I do to make this right? Nothing. There's nothing any of you can do. The damage is done. I hung up and watched the comments roll in on my post. The tide had turned completely. People who had called me pathetic a month ago were now calling Sarah and Ethan manipulative and cruel. People who had told me I was overreacting were now saying they couldn't believe what they were reading. Lindsay posted, "I owe you a huge apology. I had no idea this was going on behind the scenes." Maya commented, "This is horrifying. Sarah, how could you let this happen?" Jennifer wrote, "I feel sick reading this. Dave, I'm so sorry for what we put you through." But the best response came from someone I didn't expect. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly neighbor who had always been polite but distant. I always wondered why such a kind, hard-working man seemed so sad all the time. Now I understand. Sarah, you had a good man, and you threw him away for attention from a predator. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. My phone rang again. This time it was Sarah. "How could you do this to me?" she sobbed. "How could you humiliate me like this?" "I didn't humiliate you, Sarah. I just showed people what you actually said and did. If you are humiliated, it's because your behavior was humiliating." Those were private conversations. Private conversations where you and your boyfriend planned to destroy my self-esteem so you could justify leaving me for him. Private conversations where you agreed that I wasn't good enough for you. Private conversations where you gave him permission to publicly humiliate me. I never gave him permission? Maybe I do want you to say it. That's what you texted him when he said he was going to tell me I wasn't man enough for you. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it, Sarah? I don't know. I was confused. I was unhappy. I made mistakes. You made choices. For a year, you made choices that prioritized Ethan's attention over my feelings. You made choices that undermined our marriage. You made choices that destroyed my self-respect and my reputation. I know I was wrong, but posting those messages, everyone's seen them now. My coworkers, my family, everyone. Good. Now they know who you really are instead of the victim persona you've been cultivating. Dave, please, take them down. I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll cut contact with Ethan completely. I'll make this right. It's too late for that. It's not too late. We can start over. We can rebuild. I looked around my small apartment, at the life I'd built for myself over the past month. It wasn't much, but it was honest. It was mine. It was free from manipulation and gaslighting and people who enjoyed watching me suffer. Sarah, do you know what the worst part of all this was? What? It wasn't that you were unhappy. It wasn't even that you wanted someone else. It was that you made me feel crazy for months. You made me think I was overreacting, being too sensitive, imagining problems that didn't exist. You gaslit me into thinking I was the problem while you and Ethan systematically destroyed my self-worth. I didn't mean to. You meant every bit of it. You enjoyed it. You enjoyed having two men compete for you. You enjoyed the drama and the attention and the feeling of being desired. You enjoyed watching me diminish myself, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. That's not true. It's completely true. And now everyone knows it. I hung up and turned off my phone. Over the next few days, the fallout continued. Ethan's company apparently saw the posts and decided they didn't want someone on their sales team who specialized in breaking up marriages. He was quietly let go. Sarah's friends, the same ones who had spent weeks calling me pathetic, were now publicly distancing themselves from her. Her social media accounts went silent as the comments became too brutal to manage. Tom and Jennifer sent a formal apology, acknowledging that they had judged me unfairly and asking if there was any way to repair our friendship. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. A week later, I was grocery shopping when I ran into Ethan in the parking lot. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept in days. "You destroyed my life," he said. "I revealed your character. You destroyed your own life. I lost my job. I lost my reputation. I can't show my face anywhere in this town. Good. Maybe now you'll understand how I felt for 8 months. I never meant for it to go this far. You meant every bit of it. You wanted to steal another man's wife, and you didn't care what you had to destroy to get her. I loved her. You loved the idea of taking something that belonged to someone else. You loved the power trip. You loved making me feel small. Ethan's face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You think this is over? I think you're a predator who got exposed. I think you're facing the consequences of your choices, and I think you're realizing that actions have consequences. He stepped closer, his hands clenched into fists. You ruined everything. I told the truth. If that ruined everything, it's because everything you built was based on lies. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me, but then he seemed to deflate, the fight going out of him all at once. She's not even talking to me anymore, he said quietly. Sarah won't return my calls. She blames me for everything. Because you are to blame for everything. You manipulated a vulnerable woman into destroying her marriage, and when the consequences came, you left her to face them alone. I thought she loved me. She loved the attention, just like you loved the power. Neither of you loved anything real. I walked away, leaving him standing in the parking lot looking lost and broken. I felt no satisfaction in his misery, no joy in his downfall. I just felt tired. 3 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Sarah had moved back in with her parents and was in therapy. Ethan had left town entirely, apparently unable to find work after word of his behavior spread through professional networks. I was building a new life, with new friends who valued honesty and loyalty. I was dating someone new, a woman who thought defending your partner was basic human decency, not an unreasonable demand. Sometimes people asked me if I regretted how I handled the situation, if I thought I went too far by exposing Sarah and Ethan publicly. My answer was always the same. I regretted not standing up for myself sooner. I regretted allowing myself to be gaslit and manipulated for months. I regretted trying to save a marriage with someone who was actively working to destroy it. But I didn't regret telling the truth. I didn't regret making sure everyone knew what really happened. I didn't regret forcing Sarah and Ethan to face the consequences of their choices. They had played a game with my life, my sanity, my reputation. They had enlisted our friends as unwitting accomplices in their campaign to destroy my self-worth. They had made me question my own reality for the better part of a year. In the end, all I did was make sure everyone knew the rules of the game they had been playing. I made sure everyone understood exactly who they were dealing with. Sarah had said I wasn't man enough for her. Ethan had agreed. Our friends had nodded along. But when it came time to face the consequences of their actions, when it came time to own their choices and deal with the fallout, they all proved they weren't strong enough for the truth. And that told me everything I needed to know about who the real problem had been all along.